Addiction begins when the brain learns that a substance or behavior can quickly change how a person feels. Someone who drinks to calm anxiety may remember the relief more strongly than the next morning's regret. The first takeaway is to separate the reward from the long-term cost. Addiction begins when the brain learns that a substance or behavior brings fast relief, pleasure, or escape. A phone notification, a bet, a drink, or a sugary snack can all teach the brain to look again. The reward system uses dopamine to mark experiences as worth repeating, especially when relief arrives fast. Fast rewards need stronger boundaries because they are easier to repeat without reflection. Dopamine helps mark the experience as important, so the brain remembers where the reward came from. Cues are a major part of the loop because the brain starts preparing before the action even happens. In everyday life, passing the same shop after work or seeing the same group of friends can trigger craving before a decision feels conscious. Changing the cue often works better than arguing with craving after it is already strong. Over time, cues like stress, location, people, or time of day can trigger craving before any conscious plan appears. Tolerance develops when the same amount no longer produces the same effect. Tolerance is a warning sign because the brain is adapting to the repeated reward. The person who once relaxed with one drink may start needing 2 or 3 to feel the same escape. The habit loop becomes stronger when relief arrives quickly and consequences arrive later. A person may feel restless, irritable, bored, or empty when the old behavior is removed. Recovery needs replacement routines, not just removal of the problem behavior. Withdrawal is not only physical, it can be emotional, social, and mental. Tolerance can make the same reward feel weaker, pushing the person toward more frequent or intense use. Stress makes addiction learning stronger because relief becomes more valuable when life feels unsafe. After a difficult argument, the fastest comfort can look more convincing than the healthiest option. That is why reducing stress points lowers the fuel that keeps the loop active. The brain learns faster when relief is immediate and consequences arrive later. Automatic behavior has to be slowed down with friction, delay, and visible reminders. The habit pathway becomes automatic when the same cue, action, and reward repeat many times. The hand reaches for the app, the snack, or the cigarette before the person has fully thought about it. In addiction learning, this reward should lead back to the numbers, actions, needs, documents, or conversations that matter here. Shame can make the cycle worse because it pushes people towards secrecy and more relief seeking. Someone who feels disgusted with themselves may hide the behavior and then use it again to escape the shame. A practical response focuses on the loop instead of turning the whole identity into a failure. Stress can turn a cue into a craving before the person has time to think clearly. Keeping alcohol at home, gambling apps on the phone, or snacks on the desk shortens the distance between urge and action. Availability matters because an easy behavior becomes harder to resist when it sits nearby. Changing the environment is not weakness, it is basic brain design. In addiction learning, the energy can save time because it points to the part of the situation that actually needs attention. Addiction also narrows attention so immediate relief feels larger than future consequences. Planning must happen before the craving state, not during its loudest moment. A person may understand the debt, health risk, or broken promise and still feel pulled by the next hour of comfort. Addiction is not just liking something, it is a learning pattern that can narrow choice. Social reinforcement can quietly support the behavior. If a friend group normalizes heavy use, the brain receives belonging along with the chemical or emotional reward. Changing recovery often means changing the social setting around the behavior. Recovery often starts by changing cues, delaying the loop, adding support, and building alternative rewards. Exercise, calling someone, leaving the room, eating a proper meal, or taking a shower can interrupt the old chain. The replacement must be easy enough to use when willpower is low. Substitution helps when it gives the brain a real alternative reward. Understanding the brain's role helps reduce shame while still taking the behavior seriously. Relapse does not erase learning. It shows which cue, stressor, or belief still has power. A return after a payday, party, or lonely weekend gives information about the vulnerable point. The useful question is what condition made the old loop easier that day. Repeated reward teaches the brain to expect the same escape the next time discomfort appears. Some addictions are not safe to handle alone. Medical support, therapy, groups, and structured treatment can reduce danger while rebuilding daily patterns. Professional help matters when the loop is strong, risky, or tied to physical withdrawal. Addiction strengthens when the behavior becomes linked to places, emotions, routines, and people. The brain can form new pathways, but repetition is still required. Recovery depends on repeated small protections, not one perfect decision. A month of different evenings teaches more than one dramatic promise made after a bad night. The loop can continue even after the person no longer enjoys the behavior the way they once did. A tired or hungry brain reaches harder for quick relief because regulation is already weaker. Sleep and nutrition affect craving more than many people expect. Basic body care is part of addiction recovery, not a side issue. The brain learns faster when relief is immediate and consequences arrive later. Identity changes slowly when behavior starts matching a different story. The person who says no once, tells the truth once, or leaves one risky setting starts collecting new evidence about themselves. Self-trust returns through proof, not slogans. Recovery becomes more realistic when cues are changed instead of relying on willpower alone. Support works better when it combines boundaries with practical help. Families often misunderstand addiction as simple stubbornness. Pressure, threats, or lectures may miss the learned reward loop underneath the behavior. Stress can turn a cue into a craving before the person has time to think clearly. Prevention is easier when early signs are taken seriously. Using a behavior to escape every stressful moment can become a pattern long before it looks dramatic. The earlier the loop is interrupted, the less power it gains. Once the addiction learning signal is clear, the next step can be smaller, calmer, and more accurate. Seeing the mechanism does not excuse harmful behavior, but it explains why change needs structure. The brain forms addictions through learning, reward, memory, stress, and repetition. The strongest path is to reduce cues, build replacement rewards, and get help before the loop keeps strengthening. Support, delay, replacement habits, and safer environments all weaken the learned pathway. Understanding the learning process helps explain why stopping can feel harder than simply deciding. In addiction learning, small shifts can appear in posture, timing, avoidance, appetite, or sudden urgency. Naming the addiction learning shift gives the person a chance to respond instead of repeating the strongest impulse of the moment. Changing the environment can weaken the loop before willpower is asked to do all the work. Visual. Whiteboard explainer scene for how the brain forms addictions, scene 23. Show person noticing routine before automatic reaction, clear symbolic drawing, clean 2D educational style, no brands, no celebrities, no screenshots, no tiny unreadable text.